Welcome back, everyone. This is the 400EX again. I took it for a little bit of a ride. After I finished everything, got it all back together. New the tail lights in. Everything's on. It's all together. The ride's nice. I mean, the engine's solid. I mean, really nice, brand new, crisp. Nice bike all in all. But as I was riding it, I noticed every once in a while I heard the chain bind up, and trying to figure out why. So I brought it in, put it on the lift. Let me go over the lift. Actually, this is what they call quick jacks. It's what I've been using all along in all my videos, and I think I got these at Home Depot. They're pretty nice. They lift cars, trucks. You can use one at a time, as I have. Let me get the light out of the way. You can use one at a time, or you can use both. They work good for ATVs. If you use one, you could actually lift a bike up, a two-wheeler. If you use tie downs on either side of it to hold it on the jack. So if you wanted to pull a wheel off, I mean, these are really nice. They're not. I mean, they're a little pricey. I think they're about $1,000, but well worth it if you're going to do mechanics work on cars, bikes, quads, because they're so versatile. Not like if you bought let's say you bought just a bike lift or a quad lift. You're limited on what you can use it for, but these things you can use for anything. And you could actually build a platform for it and mount it on there so that you can, make a big flat table lift or whatever you need. They're pretty nice, just to point that out. So, let me just show you what I found out here with this, and I'll lift the bike up real quick. Alright, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but I put it on a lift and you can see, I don't know if you guys can see that play in the carrier bearing. So the play on this side, the sprocket side, is worse than the play on the brake side, but that's a lot more than I want. So this video is going to be replacing the carrier bearings. So let's get to it. I'll put the camera in a stand and we'll start taking this thing apart. Probably gonna have to force that off. I'm going to need to get my wife over here to hold the brake, and after I get this nut off, I'll come back. Well, this got ugly fast. I have tried 2 big pipe wrenches and a pipe for leverage. I've used heat, WD-40, everything. I cannot get those 2 bolts to move. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take apart the brakes, take the wheels off, put it up in the air, and I'm going to use a cutoff wheel, and I'm going to cut those bolts off. And hopefully I don't ruin the axle. If I do, I'll have to buy a new axle too. But they're not coming off. I have no other alternative but to cut them off. So what a pain. All right, let me get set up, and we'll start taking apart what we can. That's all for the job. pads. There's still a good amount of meat on them. Clean them up. So that ain't happening. So it looks like I just got to go and attack this thing. Just cut it off. So I got my right angle grinder here with a cutoff wheel, and I guess I'll try cutting this off first because I need to get that snap ring out of there before I can, even think about getting that off. Or should I just split the nut and see if I can do that? Well, I don't think the threads are behind this. I think that's just a locker. But I'll have nothing to grab to get that off of there if I do cut those off. I don't know. I don't know how to go about this. I guess we just gotta start chopping. They're a bit hot, but you can see that those threads were junk, and it wasn't going to come off. I did get it to move a little bit on the initially trying to get it going. I'll try. This is not here, but I don't think this nut's coming off. I might have to cut this one off too. The threads are a little janked up now from grinding that nut off, but it's moving. Alright. I think we're good. So we got this clip on here I gotta get off too. It should be pretty broken, which it is. So So that had to be cut, so that's no good either. But we'll get a new one of them. Sure, they're not that much money. Let's keep working this guy off. So I'll have to get a new jam nut, which is not a big deal. Hopefully by taking it off the axle, it'll fix the threads. What that is, you know what? This is pretty screwed up too. This probably isn't a lot of money. I'll just buy the whole thing. Would be the best bet, I would think. Now, this doesn't come off too easy either, does it? All right, I'm gonna have to drop that. Put this up there for now. Alright, the axle's out. Let's get a closer look at it. It's pretty rusty. I'll have to clean it all up. Obviously I gotta replace the seals. I didn't really hit the axle at all. A little bit right there, but that's not gonna affect anything. That does not look good. Grab the light. Replaced. Yeah, that's got to come out for sure. All right, let me loosen the bolts, pull this out, and then maybe I'll come back. All right, just pull the snap ring out. Let's see if I can get the carrier out of here now. Cleaned up good on it. So alright, these bearings are gone. You can hear them. Let me clean up a little bit and take it over to the bench vise and see if we can pound pound those bearings out. Alright, we're set up in the vise. I'm going to grab a screwdriver. I'm going to pop the seal out. Which came out with a bit of fanfare. So here's the seal. It don't look terribly bad. I mean, water was getting in there. But, as you can see, those bearings are shut. So, I'm going to hold it in the vise this way. Oh, of course it's too big. Let's see if I can get it in at an angle. That seems to be working pretty good. So let's hold that good and firm. And I am going to get a punch, a long punch. Get back over here. Let's see if I can knock this bearing out. It feels like it's moving. Yeah, it's moving. I'll try to get a little bit at the top yet. Not too long. Find it out. It's almost out. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me move it back. You see the bearings right here. It is coming out. It's right there. Ow. That was my knuckle. I'm going to keep a longer rod. I hit my knuckles once too many. Those bearings out. There you go. And the spacer fell out. Alright, so there's the spacer. See, that needs to be cleaned up, and it's kind of got some burrs on it. I mean, I'm not feeling a lot of yeah, it's gritty. It's gritty. All right, let's pull the seal out of this side. Same deal. Yeah, it's a little bit worn. Flip it around. Let's do the same thing on this side. Pound that baby out. And I'm just going to use the pipe as a piece of hex stock because we don't have that foot spacer or anything anymore. And she'll come right out. A little bit. It's moving. Ever so slowly. And I'm working side to side because it's binding up in there a little bit. And I will tell you that the grease inside of this absolutely stinks. It smells like sewage. That one came out a little better, not as rusty. And you can feel it in that one too. I mean, I don't really feel the slop, but we'll replace them. All right. Well, that's it. And it doesn't look bad. Clean that up a little bit, you can see. Bearing surfaces look pretty good. These surfaces look good. Still got a nice grease fitting in it. I'm thinking that this was replaced already. This is not the original because of this. Factory wouldn't put that on there. If they made these in Japan, it would be in Japanese. So this got put on after the fact, so I'm pretty confident that that's fairly a lot newer than the rest of this bike. And the bearings, obviously, the seals went, so these have seen better days. Alright, everything's cleaned up, as you can see. It looks good inside there. It's all cleaned up. Everything's clean. Got all the crud off. It all looks good. It's very important that everything is clean because you want to get all that stuff out. All that old grease and everything. This is the old nut. So I'm going to have to order that. Order those two pieces. So I'm going to come over here and put you in the stand and go over what we have here. So, alright, so cleaning everything up is very, very important because it allows you to do close inspection on all your parts to make sure that if something needs replacing, you can replace it. If you leave all that old grease and grime on there, you really can't get a good idea of what you're working with. So the snap ring, I clean that all up, and that looks good. I can reuse that. The O-ring that goes on the carrier, I'm going to replace that. It's not broken, but it's not. I mean, I'm going to replace it. It's a cheap item, and I got it all apart. I might as well replace it. The brake pads are all cleaned up. There's still a good amount of material on there, so I'm going to reuse those. This fitting here, which goes inside of the brake caliper holder, so it slides back and forth. Clean that all up. That doesn't look like it has any excessive wear on it. That's a reusable part. The caliper bracket mount itself, it's all cleaned up. It looks good. There's an O-ring that goes inside of there. I think that's that O-ring that goes inside of here. I'm gonna put a new O-ring in there. The disc is all cleaned up. I cleaned the spline threads in there. As you can see, it's all nice. It looks like there's a little bit of wear in here, but I'm gonna reuse it. Still looks good. I'll reuse that. The carrier. So this said 400EX on it, and looking at this has recently been replaced. This piece is fairly new. I mean, there's no tarnish on it. It's still shiny aluminum. It hasn't been in the bike long. I cleaned it all up. This has been replaced, and this is a nice piece, and I'm going to put it back in. You can see where the bearings seat, nice and clean, nice and shiny. There's no scores in there or anything. So it's a nice piece. I'm going to reuse this for sure. And this is the spacer sleeve that goes in the middle, keeps the bearings separated. It also, when you put the grease through the fitting, that fitting right there, it goes all around this and creates like a void, fills a void that's in there, which pushes grease into the bearings. The axle itself is all cleaned up. I wire wheeled it. It's all cleaned up. It looks good. Let me pull it down so you can get a better look at it. As you can see here, it's all wire wheeled. It's all cleaned up. Again, there's some of the areas that the seals sit on are a little worn, but for the most part, I think I'm going to replace that axle, and I'll show you why. So this is one of the bearings that I took out, and when you rotate them by hand, you can feel the thump in them. So the bearings, they're gone. They're no good. Considering that this carrier is new, I'm not quite sure how the bearings went so fast. Maybe maybe they used the old bearings. I don't know. I sure hope not. But I'm going to replace these. I'm going to show you why I think I need a new axle. So when you put these on here, let me change the camera. Go here. When you put these on here, you can see that there's a lot of slop there. And let me bring you up a little bit so you can see this top one. There's a lot of slop down here, and there's just as much slop there. I'm going to look the specs up online, and I'm going to mic these to see if they're still on tolerance. I'm pretty sure they're not. I mean, that I don't think any bearing seat's supposed to be that loose. So I'm thinking that I need to get a new axle as well. So I'm going to price it out and see how much an aftermarket axle is. I might as well go all out, I guess, if I'm going to put one in. And I'll see if it comes with the bearing kit and all that, because like I said, it's pretty good that the carrier itself is brand new, or pretty close to brand new. So I'm probably going to go the new axle route. And again, this is why cleaning up your parts and giving a nice inspection, so that you're not constantly chasing something bad, because you don't want to take all this time and energy and effort and money to just replace the bearings and throw them back in there on a bad axle, because you're just going to be in the same spot again in 6 months to a year. So I want to do this right if I'm going to pull it apart. I mean, I already got a ton of money into the motor on this quad, so I want to do this axle right, and that's probably what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go online, do some shopping, and see what kind of deals I can find. And I'm going to replace the axle and the bearings and everything, and then when the parts come in, we'll go on assembly, and then we'll take it for a ride and see how she goes. Alright, I got a couple of things in today, so I'm going to try to do a little bit of assembly here. I'm going to put the carrier bearings inside the carrier. I got them in the freezer right now, so I'm going to pop those in. I put the new O-ring inside of the caliper holder. You guys can see there. Got a new one. The old one's right here. I probably still could have used it, but I don't know if you can see it. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but it's got some dry rot on it. They gave me a new one, so I'll use it. I'm going to put a little bit of grease inside of here, just to help the bearing slide in. I'm hoping that by freezing it, it'll go in easier. Alright, grab one. There's a new bearing, still in this package. Alright, there it is. Looks good. Yeah. I got my big mallet, Big Bertha here. That's the hard end, soft end. So I'll use the soft end. I'm going to use a socket. Move it closer to the support here. Crooked. There we go. Well, let me move down to the floor. Let's try it down here. The floor is not going to give, that's for sure. There we go. Just pop it in now. Alright, that is fully seated, and it's moving very nicely. do the other side. Again, a little bit of grease in there to help it slide down. Hopefully it won't gall on its way in. Alright. So now we're going to put the bearing spacer in. Grab the second new bearing. Alright, that looks good. Let's move back up to the bench. So as you can see, maybe you can't. Here, bearings in there. You can see the spacer. It's in there. Spacer. Alright, so I'm going to put seals in, and I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the outside of these as well. Just get them to slide in. I think I can just slide this in by pushing it. I think I need to hammer it, but I might. All right. Show you what I got. Seals in there nice and flush. Looks good. Let's do the other side. Put a little bit of grease on that one. Alright, so this one's a little different. This one, as you can see, there's a bit of a chamfer, and the seal has to be flush with the top for the bottom of that chamfer, so it's got full diameter on that bore. So a little bit different. I couldn't really get my fingers in there, so I had to use the socket. But so this side's flush, and that side's flush with the bottom of that chamfer. I'm going to pack inside here with grease on both sides, this void, before I put it back together. I don't need to do that now because I'm going to wait till I get the axle. So for now, I'm this is ready. I actually could install this on the machine right now, which I think I'll wait until I get it all. I'll come back and do that. I'll show you what I got here today. Also came in. I don't know if you can see that. The Honda jam nut. I had to cut the other one off, if you guys remember. So here's the jam nut. It's the lock retaining ring and the jam nut and the sleeve. So nice and brand new, all ready to go. So we'll install those when I get the axle in. So the axle's still in order. It should be here by in another day or two, and then I'll throw that in. So I'm going to cut this off now and come back when I get the axle. New axle's in. As you can see, it's a sweet piece. And I just wanted to give you guys a comparison of the new and the old. So let me bring you down a little bit closer here. Now you can see these journals right here are really nice, right? And the grease seal surface right here. And you come over here and you look at the other one, the one I took off, and this is, yeah, same area right here and here. So what happened was, let me put you back up in there. One of the previous owners of the bike clearly had axle slop in the back, and probably to the point where the carrier went, and they replaced the carrier, because this carrier is new, and there's no tarnish, there's no corrosion, there's no oxidation. I didn't really do anything to this but just wipe it down with a rag. So this has been replaced fairly recently, and these are the bearings that I took out of it. And I don't know if you can hear this. I don't know if you can hear that or not. That bearing is bad. This one here is okay. And you can see the rust on it. And I'm going to tell you why that happened. I'm going to actually show you why that happened. If you come across a problem where your carrier goes, and you buy a new one, and they usually come with the seals in them and the bearings all assembled, all you have to do is just pop it in the bike. And that's probably what happened here. If your axle is worn out, then you're really just kind of wasting your money, and I'll show you why. Because these are the bearings, and these are the bearing surfaces right here, and you can see, look at the slop on that. There's not supposed to be that much slop. And here's the other bearing surface, same thing. So even though you're buying a brand new carrier with brand new bearings and everything, you put it on an old worn out axle, you're still going to get axle slop. And what that ends up doing is allowing water and dirt to get into your bearings through the seals. Because essentially, the seals only work if the carrier is running dead true with the spindle. So if you have any type of wobble at all in your axle, the seal isn't going to be sitting tight. It's going to be moving like this. It's going to be open on one side and tight on the other, and you're going to get dirt, water, and debris inside there, and you're just going to smoke your new bearings. And that's what happened here. Whoever replaced the carrier on this machine before I got it should have replaced the axle, and they didn't. So I'm replacing the axle, and I can tell you the reason why they didn't replace the axle: because of the cost. That was not cheap. That was not a cheap part. About 3 times the price of a carrier. So, with that being said, I just wanted to show you guys that, so that if you come across the problem where the bearings are worn out, your carrier is worn out, check your axle journals. If your axle's worn, replace it, because you're just wasting your time, effort, and money throwing a new carrier on an old worn out axle. Well, let's put that carrier back in. Let's get this all assembled. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some grease in here, all up and around in there. is outdoor grease. I cleaned this whole inside up earlier. Got all the crud out that was in there. This will allow it to move easy when you try to adjust the chain. And cut down on the corrosion as well. Alright. That's good. Now on the carrier itself, there's O-rings that go here and here, and they keep debris from getting in there, water and whatnot. I mean, you're gonna get water through the slit here a little bit, but you want to try to minimize it. So these O-rings have to go on there as well. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil, grease on those to hopefully get them to slide through nice, so they don't bind up, tear. Slide that in. And there's a grease fitting on here. This grease fitting isn't on the factory carrier. It's still full of grease. I didn't take the grease out of the middle. I left it in there. And the grease doesn't really do anything. It doesn't get to the bearings. The bearings are sealed. There's a metal spacer in there that keeps the grease from getting on anything anyway. So I'm not really sure what the purpose of that is. Maybe to keep water from building up in there? I don't know. Anyway. Slide this guy in. So, maybe the O-rings causing me trouble. Let's take them off of there. Those O-rings are for the factory carrier, and these aren't really grooves, so to speak, for it. So maybe, I don't know who makes this carrier, but it seems to be the same as the factory anyway. In. Nice. Now we have the brake caliper mount, and this I did install a new O-ring in. I took the old one out, and it had some dry rot on it, so I put in the new one. Slide bushing. I'm gonna grease that. Grease on the outside, where it slides on the caliper. We're going to grease the O-ring, help it slide in. Now we'll install the snap ring. Make sure it's seated. It looks like it is. All right. Now we got to slide the axle in, and what I'm going to do is there's a void between the seal and that bearing. And I am going to stuff that full of grease. And I'll tell you why, because I don't want if you have it full of grease, you don't have to worry about anything, any water getting in there. And as it heats up, it will also lubricate that seal. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. There's a bit of a void over here as well. Try sliding that new axle in. That's it, she's in. Alright, and that is super tight. Nice and smooth and free. Real nice. I'm gonna move it back a little bit so I can work on this side some. Sit down actually. Alright. So I'm going to stuff more grease in here. Alright. Now, slide on the caliper. So, like I said before, when things are worn out, seals won't seat properly. As you can see, this hub here is really worn, and you can see how worn. Those two grooves are where the seal sits. I'm going to reuse this only because I spent enough money on this bike already, and I know I really should replace it. But I feel as if I fill this area with enough grease, nothing's going to get past it anyway, so we should be good. So I'm going to use it. Alright, it's in. We're looking good. Now, we're going to install the axle nut. So, here's the axle nut. So here's a new one, new clip, and it's looking real good. So I'll slide this on. And we'll install the clip. Alright, it's in. Now, what we do is We have left-handed threads on this, so we turn this until we start to get pressure on that clip, and then that forces everything tight together. And obviously you don't want to go too tight. That feels good. I'm going to put a wrench on that. I went the wrong way. What's going on here? Alright. So the snap ring had the seat inside there, which it did. Alright, that is good and tight, and we're in good shape. So now, I'm going to put the chain back on. And I broke the master link on this because I thought it would be easier. But I probably should just, move the axle. Alright, so I got the master link on, and it was really a pain in the ass. It's right here. So what I had to do was I grabbed the C-clamp and I cranked on it until I forced it in, and I squeezed it on either end with pliers. The problem is it's an O-ring chain, and I had to compress the O-rings in order to get this thing on there, so it's kind of a pain. But as you guys can see, so that's right there. So it's all set. It spins pretty good. I mean, this is hitting. The chain's super loose. So let's tighten up the chain. And we'll go from there. So I think that that'll be pretty good. All right. Good amount of play there. It feels good. So I have this caliper protector to put on, and it is kind of a pain. So I'll put the pad pins in, for now, and then I'll take it out once I get it set. It'll be a little easier. And these don't have to be super tight because they're not going to come out. I mean, you could bend these tabs over, but they're not coming out. I don't want to strip the threads. All right. That looks good. That looks good. There's a fair amount of rust inside these, but it should be okay. I think that I want some grease on here. That'll keep it from corroding. Now, I don't like to reuse cotter pins. Harbor Freight, I don't know, 15 bucks. You get all these. So I'm just going to use brand new cotter pins. And these are a little bit on the long side, so I usually just cut them. They cut pretty easy with a pair of Lyman's pliers. They cut pretty easy. And I'll just pop that in there. Come right down through. Give it just a tiny bit more. Now, the needle nose. In there. Pin one side of it up, one side of it down. That's it. All right. The axle's all done. Let's take you out of the stand and show you. So the only thing left now is put the wheels on, take it for a ride. So I'm going to start it up, and I'm going to let it run for a minute and see what it sounds like, and I'll let you guys see that as well. Alright. So hopefully you can hear me with the motor running, but that is running smooth, real good. What I was doing before when I did this, I heard kind of a clanking sound. So let me give it a little test. Alright, so what I was doing before when I did that, well, I was riding it, it had a clanking sound, and I couldn't figure out what it was, so I put it up on the lift, I let it run like that, and every once in a while, the rear end would bind. And that's how I knew the carrier bearings were bad. Because I came over and I found the play. See, there's no play in this at all. None at all. So we're good to go. Let me throw the wheels back on it. And maybe I'll take it for a ride in the yard and bring you guys along.